Hey guys, welcome to the Best Practices Show, where we take a look at the best business practices from the best dental practices all over the country. And we're going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects of all time with two of my favorite doctors who are ACT clients who did it. They pulled it off and they're fresh into it. And so I've got two rock stars, Dr. Jake Kirby and Dr. Jerrod Crawford from Texas, and they rethought their whole workday. Instead of working like crazy hours, they went from a workday that had a lunch to a straight 8, 7 to 3, and now they get out and get to see their kids, and I want to show you how they did it. So stick around, grab a pen, and hit the share button. You're going to love this. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show. I am so grateful that you're on today, and I've got a very, very unique show today. This is one of my favorites because I got two young dentists that we coach personally in ACT Dental, and they pulled it off. They just pulled it off. If you've ever been to a lecture that I do, you're going to see I love talking about the straight 8, which is rethinking the whole workday with, and going without a lunch. And I saw this trend happen a few years ago. Actually, it was more than 10 years ago. And now I'm watching people all over the country transform their hours and grow their practices. And more importantly than grow their practices and change their hours, they're transforming their lives. So really funny, though, Jerrod Crawford. Jerrod, say hi. Can you say hi?
Hey.
And Jake Kirby. Where do you guys practice at?
Tyler, Texas.
Tyler, Texas. I love Tyler. Yeah. Now, this is so appropriate. Jerrod's not going to stay. He's out in like 2 seconds. And Jerrod, tell us why. Now, it is current. What time is it in Texas? It is what time?
We got almost 3 o'clock.
2:59.
Okay, it's 2:59. And you are going to what? You're going to do what right now?
Go pick my kids up from school.
You're going to pick your kids up from school. So you told me I got until 3:02. So I've got like 120 more seconds, or your son will throw a fit, or because he's expecting.
He'll be the last one picked up, and we'll hear about it all night.
Okay, now I do want to get one word from you before just a sentence. Now, you just transform your hours. You leave your office every day now at around this time, right?
Yes, sir.
And you pick your kids up. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, it's been we were worried at first, if we were going to see people want to leave, but we've increased every month that we've done it.
Yeah.
And our girl, everybody that works here gets to be home at 3:30 and got the rest of the night to hang out with their wives and kids, and that's what life's about, doing that.
Yeah. Amen. How's your son?
10 and about to be 13-year-old.
10, 13.
2 boys. Yeah.
You don't get these years back. You only get 16 summers, and man, you're enjoying the little segment you get at the end of every day. So, Did you practice die? I know you already said it's been.
No, we're still here.
Still here. So we're going to let you go, buddy. I know you got to pick up your son, but Jake, you're going to stay, right?
I'm the sucker.
Yeah.
You're not the sucker because I want you to. Thank you, Jerrod. We'll see you, brother.
All right.
All right. So, Jake, tell us, some people watching this, they freak out. They freak out with the whole idea of 8 to 5 with a lunch, or working expanded hours, working evenings and Saturdays. Now, I'm just going to say this. There are a lot of coaches and speakers out there that teach you be open, expanded hours, evenings, weekends, Saturdays, all that kind of stuff, because it'll grow your practice. And they're right. It will totally grow your practice. But you're going to build your practice with a lot of people on two things: price and convenience. Now, that's not bad. It's just a business model. And as you're going to see, I'm passionate about, look, we only get one shot at this thing called life. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, you don't get this time back with your kids or anything. So we've been teaching to 7 to 3 straight. It doesn't always have to be 7 to 3. You can come up with different configurations. So tell us your story, Jake. So Jake, you and Jerrod have been practicing. Tell us who you are. Like, I want to know about you and who you are.
Okay. Yeah. So first of all, when it's me and Jerrod, my brother-in-law, so we're a family practice, and also my sister-in-law, Dr. Anna Crawford. We're here together. And And we moved here. I've been here 5 years. The Crawfords have been here 4 years. We're with Dr. David Burrow, who's on the retiring end of things. And so our whole goal was to work together and to do it. Looks like there we go. Are we there? Computer's
yeah, we're here.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
And Tyler was a place that I grew up in North Louisiana. We lived in Dallas, and East Texas has become such a wonderful spot for us. It's a great community. But what we wanted to do in our practice was create a family atmosphere. And that was already set up by Dr. Burrow. He did a great job with that. David created that, and we just grew on top of that. But what we're about is serving the Lord and glorifying Him in everything we do. And we have a team. Maybe not everybody here are devout followers of Jesus, but what we want to do is show joy and love to our patients every day. We truly want to do that. Dentistry it's a grueling day sometimes. You're on a tight schedule, a lot of demands, but what we continue to tell our team is to show the love and the joy that God gives us first and give it back. So everything, when we came on board with you guys over a year ago, we just wanted to build on that, but actually put policies and systems that allowed us to do that, more freely. Yeah. And going to like a 7 to 3 schedule was something that Crawford did before because he was in the Navy. Mm-hmm. That was his schedule. To me, it wasn't a concept that I ever saw happen or that could happen because, we were originally 8 to 5 with a 1 o'clock lunch, but this truly fit in our whole model of trying to create time with our families and you do what we want to do. I mean, be with people we love the most, and that's our families at home.
Yeah, and you have a young family. How old are your children and your wife and your children at home?
Yeah. Yep. So it's Jamie and I. We've been married 12 and a half years, and she is truly my better half, no doubt. And 6-year-old boy, 4-year-old boy, 9-month-old boy. Bo, Luke, and Ben.
That's awesome, buddy.
Yeah.
Now, take us through your journey, because if I'm a young dentist watching this and I go, Dr. Kirby, that's really cool, but you don't understand, man. I bought a practice from a dentist who did it this way. You guys came to a lecture or something. How many months ago was that? Was that like a year ago? When was that?
You're talking about the original one where Crawford. Well, Jerrod saw you maybe San Francisco or San Diego, AGD, like many years ago, 8 years ago, 7 years ago. No. Yeah, it was when he was in the Navy. So probably 7 or so years ago. And then we started using ActU, right? Mm-hmm. Just the month type of subscription with y'all. And then what was the original question?
Well, I just want to know about your journey more so than ACT. What you guys have been through. And then just in the last couple of months, because you guys have done some great things, and then you were resistant to do the 7 to 3 thing. You were like, and even in November, you're like, I kind of want to do it, but I want to wait because our practice is big, right?
Yeah. So we grew very rapidly. So Burrow, before I joined 5 years ago, it was him and 2 hygienists. Mm-hmm. And then our goal was Crawford and I to work together. So this was just the perfect opportunity that God opened the doors for us. We prayed about it. Didn't know much about Tyler. But it's a close community, just like any small town anywhere in America, like 100,000 people, you see everyone, every restaurant you go to, you're seeing patients everywhere. So we knew we needed to do it right. And Jerrod and I I feel like we're good, friendly, loving people. And no matter whether we're amazing dentists or not, it's just a matter of taking care of folks. And so we knew David was doing that in this community. So we joined on with him. Once Jerrod even came in, he even knew about 7 to 3 schedule, but we were 8 to 5, 8 to 12, lunch 12 to 1, 1 to 5. And then really even coming on with y'all, we didn't consider it too much until probably fall. Maybe we watched one of your videos that you have on the Act Dental. And then I remember calling you in October, October 16th, and you said, write this down or something. You said, this is the start of a beautiful future, or whatever you said. Mm-hmm. And then you said, when do you think you're going to start it? And I was like, well, maybe like a few months. And then it was just like, chirp, chirp, chirp. You said you got to start it sooner. I mean, you're like, it'll work, but you got to keep the momentum going. And so I think the 7-3 schedule, Crawford saw how it can work and how wonderful it is to be home at 3:15 with your family. But it's a big shift. You know, you start thinking about what our patient's going to think. Is our whole team going to be able to do it?
Right.
So we work through all those things for sure. You know?
Yeah. Well, I've got a bunch of questions I want to ask you. Now, we're shooting this live on Facebook. So if you have questions you want to ask Dr. Kirby, type them in there, and I'm going to ask him to respond, and even after the live broadcast, because this is something I'm so passionate about. And I'm just going to say a couple things about the straight 8. The straight 8, every single practice, and I do mean every practice, 100% of them that we have seen go from an 8 to 5 to lunch to 7 to 3, all of them have done the same thing. Their practices have grown. And it's not about money. It's the fact that they love their lives and they can get more creative and they're more engaged over and over again. Now, I do have to say a couple things about lunch too, and you can speak to this, Jake. You know, 8 to 5 isn't really 8 to 5 because sometimes dentists get there at 7:20 and people say, oh, I work 8 to 5. And I'm like, I know you say 8 to 5, but I watched you guys yesterday. You all got here at 7:20 and then you all left at 6:30. And you can screw up a lot 8 to 5, but you put it in your lunch and you put it at the end of the day. And before you know it, you're going home and you're wiped out. 7 to 3, you can't screw up. And so you do need the help of everybody on your team. And when you guys were thinking about doing this, I said, no, we're going to go January 1st. And you're like, no. And I said, well, let's do this. Let's get your team on and let's see what they think. So what happened when you said to the team, hey, I'm thinking about this? What'd they say?
Absolutely shocking. They're all like, we want to do it yesterday. It was such a surprise that all of them were like, and you said it, you know, for moms to be home or picking their kids up at school, you can't trade that. I mean, they would trade everything for that. And so that's the response we got. And it was maybe like 2 or 3 that had to figure out the dynamics, like between their husbands, of who's going to get their kids to school. I mean, there's true like day-to-day considerations of who's getting their kids to school, how do they get out of here right at 3. You know, that's a big factor. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But they were all ready.
Yeah.
Like, totally ready.
Yeah. Now take us through the thought process. So once you guys decided to do this, yes, you do have to figure out things, because in order to get anything in life, you have to get rid of something. So starting at 7 o'clock in the morning is a tough transition, especially for single moms. I could never even fathom how difficult that is, but you got to rework the morning. So what time did you used to come to the office? When did you used to come to the office in the mornings?
So we would typically huddle originally before at 7:55, and then I would get here anywhere between 7:30 to 7:45. Usually roll in 7:45. Right. And unless I had something to do on QuickBooks or something I need to catch up on, I would come in early. But everyone, whether it's 6:55 now or 7:55 then, it's most everybody rolling in right at 1 minute before.
Right. And then, and what time did you used to finish? And now what time do you finish? Because finishing is tough. It is tough to finish.
It is such a huge factor. I mean, that's one thing that you told us before, but it's so tangible because, I won't dwell too much at the lunchtime right now, but ending originally at 5, you didn't have that strict thought, I need to end at 5. So you'd sometimes throw in an emergency exam, a limited exam at 4:30. You're taking x-rays. You got to talk about stuff. So you may not end with patients till 5:15. Right. Then I hadn't even started on like my last notes of the day and stuff. And I consistently wasn't getting home till 5:45, pushing 6, Right. And I only lived 2 minutes away or 3 minutes away. Right. So I was here, till pushing 5:45 all the time.
Yeah. Now, I did get a question. Stephen asked this question to you. Is it 7 to 3, 4 days a week that you guys work? And when do you start your morning huddle?
Right. So we start morning huddle. So because we were 7:55 before, we're 6:55 on our huddle. And first patient starts at 7:10. Okay. Because we huddle for 10 minutes. Okay. And 6:55, like for some of these moms, I mean, that they're booking it to get here.
Right.
And then the question was, what was the
7 to 3, 4 days a week?
Yeah, 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. And then we are open 7 to 12 on Fridays.
Okay.
Or before we were 8 to 12 or 8 to 1. Mm-hmm. So 5 hours on Fridays. And that's because we have multiple doctors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my sister-in-law, Dr. Anna, works Fridays.
Right. Yeah, you guys aren't working 5 days a week.
No, every once in a while, it's very rare. It's if Anna needs a day, you know, she can't be there, Jerrod or I work for Fridays.
Okay. So I got a ton of questions whenever, okay, what about hygiene patients? Like, let's say I want to make this change. And you were thinking, well, let's do it in the summer of 2017. I'm like, no, you're doing it January 1st. So how did you approach it with your team and the hygiene patients that are already booked?
Yeah. So that's where you came on board and we had you talk with our whole team and also the admin front office. And yeah, that was a big thing, was like, we got patients booked, you know, the next month or tomorrow. What do we do? And everybody started calling. Our hygienists would call, you know, those patients they knew specifically. Our coordinators up front started calling. And then that's where the language came in of truly explaining to people our new schedule. Mm-hmm. And that's where we took a lot of advice from you guys on how to communicate. That was critical.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Good. I want to ask you how you did it and what'd you say?
Yeah, so that really is such a thing. I mean, patients, the thing you expect is them to disagree and to complain. But most of the time they're like, oh, that's interesting. Okay. And then they just work it out. I mean, it's just like calling patients and saying like, Dr. Kirby's not here because he has to be with family, or I'm sick, you know, as a hygienist, you know, we're gonna have to reschedule you because of a scheduling conflict. You're just doing that. But if the opportunity arises to explain, we have these, we don't dwell on the fact that we don't have 3 to 5.
Right.
We've tried to focus on, you know what, we now have 7 a.m. appointments. We can get you in before your day starts.
Right.
And we are completely booked at 7 a.m. appointments from the get-go.
Right.
And then we also throw in, we have lunchtime appointments. Because in a small town like Tyler, you got a lot of businessmen and, you know, those are 2 appointments we didn't have before. Mm-hmm. Now, if we get the argument, I would say we've had 5 to 10 patients that are truly like, I don't know if we can make this work because of kids' schedules. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest one, is that 3 to 5.
Right.
And maybe 3 that have been really, really adamant. Like, I like you guys, but I can't make this work. Mm-hmm. But they've actually come back in.
Yeah. Now think about that. What you just said, I want to pick you at 3 out of how big is your patient base? How many patients do you guys serve?
Probably 6,000 or so.
6,000 patients. 3 said this isn't going to work, because dentists, now this is important. If you're a young dentist watching this, you're trained to think in terms of exceptions. You're going to think how this isn't going to work for a few people or a team member. And really, if we're going to look at data, that's a pretty small thing. And, you know, Jake, your kids are so young that's kind of it's a good trade-off. Hey, if we lose 3 patients out of 6, I'm good, but I'm going to pick up my kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and another thing, I want to just go back to what you said too, because what you guys do so well is you talk about what you do, what you can do, and not what you can't do. Can you just explain a little bit more about that? You guys do that in everything, you know?
Right. And it's really helped shape our language. It's been a great teaching tool just for our whole team on just positive interaction with patients. And it definitely kicked our front office, especially Susie is our scheduling coordinator. I mean, it's kicked them in a second gear or a higher gear of how to talk to patients and to keep things positive. So the question was what we do have and not what we don't. There was a tendency. I mean, we definitely the first few weeks, because we're now 3 months into it. We started January 1. We did every Thursday. So we have our meetings 7 to 9 on Thursday mornings. Okay. I know y'all kind of recommend doing it early in the week, but we were already, Thursdays just works for us. It's when all of us dentists are here. So we met regularly. We talked about this every Thursday for the first 6 weeks, probably, because there were always things coming up about patients, and whether it was they were complaining or confused about when they can get in, whether it having to be rescheduled, there were a lot of things to talk about. And so that 7 a.m. appointment is surprisingly super great for patients, even moms with kids. I had a friend of ours who's a mom who goes to church with us. She brought 3 kids in at 7 a.m.
Wow.
All 3, knocked them out. They went to school. And then she dropped them off at school and came back at 9 o'clock.
Right.
So it worked for her. It really is amazing every day how many patients you walk in and they're like, whew, this is early. You're awake, Dr. Kirby? And I'm like, I've been awake, man. My kids have been up since 5. And they're like, well, this is great for me. And it truly, that's so cool to hear.
Right.
The 3 to 5 thing is still a factor.
Okay. So what are you guys doing about that now?
One of the things we talk about is that it's 2 times a year. You know, because so many patients that are routine with their hygiene, it's truly 2 times a year. You know, and the ladies, our team, they're funny about it because they're like, like you talk about with your wife, they'll drop everything for their hair. Right.
Right.
So our hygienists are great at talking about that. You know, they can talk in that level with patients.
Right.
Guys usually don't have a problem because it's during a work day. Come in before work or you're out at lunch. It's the moms with kids and working moms who end of the day works better. You know, it's hard to take off in the middle of the day. But then we just talk to them, and most of the times it comes down to relationships. Like, I don't think we could have done this, 3 years ago when Crawford and I were so new here.
Right.
But now we have relationships with patients. They trust us. They want to make it work. You know. So.
Yeah. And I will say this, one of the things there's so many things I love about you guys, but you guys are just honest with people. You're just honest. You care about them a lot, and then you just tell them the truth. And it's really not that hard when you practice that way and care for people that way. Would you agree? Yeah. Yeah. And that just goes back to what we believe, and we want to serve God and glorify Him. We're just honest, and dentistry is already a humbling profession. So you don't need to be humbled. Right. You're continually humbled every day. Yeah.
But I think having families, understand the dynamics. We both have working wives. We understand. It's tough. But you may have said it, and we say it all the time. Orthodontists, 80% of their patients are kids.
Yep.
So, like, you got kids getting out of school all the time.
Oh, we take them out of school all the time. They don't have evening hours. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of helping patients appreciate what we have. And then also, we don't throw it in their face, like you say, of like, we're getting home to our families. Because we haven't had anybody go, what about my family? But we truly, and then we've had patients go like, you know what? I applaud your decision, but I got to figure out how I'm going to make this work. We've had that,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now, as far as the nuances go, did you guys have any other stumbling blocks in those first couple of weeks? Because really, the first week you do it, you got to figure out some things. You know what I mean? It's a little chaotic for the first week. Would you agree? But then when does it start to settle down? Week 2, week 3 in January? Tell me your thoughts.
Yeah. It definitely took, because we were talking about it every Thursday, pretty extensively. So, it was a hot topic for definitely the first 3 or 4 weeks. It was, but we never didn't have schedule filled. We had a full schedule, and even 3 to 5, it wasn't, even like 7 o'clock was completely filled. We might've had some openings in our doctor's schedule for a little while. I could go back and look at it, but, it definitely was a priority on calling patients reschedule, because we would get to the end of January and it'd be like, we still got February patients from 3 to 5. So but for right now, we're 3 months into it. It's like we've always done it.
Yeah. And you guys are not about this at all. Your faith is so important to you, and you guys doing the right thing. But I'll never forget, at the end of January, because you were a little scared about this. I got a text from you, and it was the first week of first, and you go, January, largest month ever. And I was like, no way. I told you.
Yeah.
And it's not about the money. It's the fact that you guys value you more, your time more. And take us through that thought process.
Valuing our time more.
Yeah.
That thought process. Yeah. I mean, I'm 5 years into being a dentist, and so that's a growing process. I'm probably one of your younger side of clients, but you can extend yourself all day, every day. I mean, even our prior practice consultant we were still working with when I came in, they were recommending Saturday hours and evenings. And Jerrod and I it never settled right.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I guess, but that's not what we wanted. And, but it's interesting because it's 7 to 3. I have more energy. Yeah. And you don't realize it till you do it, and that's another conversation. I mean, I probably have a question for that, but like truly not stopping for that break and going till 5:30 or 5:45. I mean, it's just a fresher. I'm more fresh, even though I'm tired slightly rolling in at 7. You kind of got to get your body going, have another cup of coffee, but I eat better. I'm just eating a healthier sandwich when I bring my lunch. And then when I know I can be home, I mean, today's an exception, but I'll know when I'm home at 3:30 and I'm going home to play with my kids, it's just a different energy. And my time, I'm spending my time more wisely.
Yeah.
And it's the same amount of time here. Mm-hmm. It's the same amount of time with patients. It's so crazy.
Isn't that fascinating? And a lot of times you just find it's just the way you think about your day. You're 5 years into practice. Your kids are so young. What a gift to them at the side of the field. I mean, think about that. Like when I was a boy at football practice, one of my favorite things was looking over to the sidelines and seeing my dad. Do you know what I mean? Like, or you'd see him. I mean, those are things you just don't ever forget, and they're etched permanently in your memory. It comes down to this. It's not about the money. It's about giving your best energy to things that matter most. And when you said you have energy at the end of the day, look, don't kid yourself. When you're at your practice, whether it's focused energy or just energy in general, when you leave at 5:30, you're fried. And then you go home and you decompress. I have a lot of dentists that say, hey, look, I need like an hour just to let my brain go. Because you work in a 2 to 3 inch space with undeniable intensity. And now you've reworked it where you're like, hey, man, today was a great day. We did awesome stuff. I'm going to pick up my son. I'm going to work out, do whatever. And you have a full day after your day is done.
Yeah. Now it's summertime. We got 5.5 hours with kids at home. Yeah. Sunlight.
And when they're young, you get to see them before they go to bed.
Right. If you're married with, and you have kids, we all know those kids, you try to get them bed, start the little kid routine at 7, have them bed at 7:30 or 8, but they trickle out of the room till 8:30 or 9. And then your time with your spouse is literally an hour and you're tired. And so that was my normal routine that I could have kept doing for the next 30 years of my life, of get home at 6, eat a rush dinner. Your kids are tired. You're tired. Kids are to bed. You're tired with your spouse, and you just do that over and over. It's a new life. It truly is.
Right.
It's pretty remarkable. Yeah.
Right. And now the other thing you want to think about too, so if you're a young dentist watching this, what you do is when you create a patient base, you actually teach people how to treat you. So now your new referrals that are coming to you, they already know the deal, don't they? They're not going, hey, look, do you have a Friday night, or a Saturday morning? I mean, you still get those questions, but for the most part, they're referred with the same premise.
Yeah. Yes. And I don't know, is there a difference us here in East Texas than like a Dallas? Like, I don't even think there's an expectation of a Saturday here. So I don't know if that's an advantage here. I don't know. Because, since this has happened, I've had 2 more of our passionate patients, to say it nicely. Mm-hmm. Good families. And we take care of like the wife, husband, 3 kids. 2 times they've been like, I want you to consider 1 night a week working longer. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of like, I'll take that to heart, but that's a no,
Yeah.
But those patients are still here.
Yeah.
It took them a while to accept it. You know?
Well, and absolutely. And you guys know this. I mean, one of the best things you can ever do is just point to a picture. You could say, hey, look, I love your consideration, but that's why I don't. And I only get so much time. And everybody gets that. And if they don't get that, it might be not somebody you want to give up your evenings for, because and we always find time for things that we value. We do. We always will.
Ultimately, if we lost patients because of this, like you said, the trade-off, if we lose even 10 families, but the rest of my life I get to work 7 to 3, it's a good trade-off.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the other hidden advantage that we're not talking about here too is, your practice is creating a culture where we value family, we value our time together, we value everything. And you've got an amazing team. So I don't even want to speak to the fact that people would die to work for you. I mean, a great team member would just kill to work in your office, because they do the math. They're like 4 days a week, 7 to 3. Oh my gosh, that means I would be in the pickup line. And if I'm really good at team member, I'm really good, amazing assistant, hygienist. I mean, you're going to attract a certain quality of team members, as opposed to, I don't know in Tyler, but in Dallas, there are practices that are open 24 hours.
Yeah.
And there are people that'll do crowns at 2 a.m. And I can only guess, first of all, they're not watching this podcast because they don't care. Right. Secondly, you're not attracting the best dental assistant in the world if they're going to assist you for a crown at 2 a.m.
Right. That's so true. And it's actually funny. In the past 4 months, it's just life happening for some of our team. We've had 2 team members transitioning out. One moved to Dallas. The other's just making a change in life. So we've had to interview several in the past few months.
Yeah.
And we've had really good resumes. It's all happening fast. But I now have this question that I didn't have before. I'm like, what do you think about 7 to 3 hours? Every single person I've interviewed, all ladies, and most of them with kids, are like, that's the best thing ever. Mm-hmm. Like, it's awesome. Not even hesitation. It's a invitation to like new life for so many people that are used to having to work till 5:30 or 6, especially as a mom.
Right.
Yeah. And it's a new thing for us to have that as part of our interview.
Right.
In team members.
Right. And I also don't want to mislead anybody watching this. You don't just change to 7 to 3 and everything works perfectly. Right. There are downsides. Like, you've got to up your game on a couple things. What are some of the downsides you've seen, Jake, that you've got to change your game? Yeah.
And that's one of the things you addressed at the beginning was your policies and systems have to be tight. And we couldn't do it a year ago. We couldn't have done it 6 months ago. We truly couldn't have. But we're at the point where we're at the end of Act 1 and all the policies and systems, and just having a great flow from the front to our assistants, hygienists to us. And it's an open communication where we can talk about things. Certainly moving to 7 to 3. One of the huge topics is everyone's got to leave at 3. And we can't have people staying late. And it happens, though. I mean, of course, in dentistry, you get into a procedure and you got a couple more surfaces, or you get into the nerve. I mean, there's things that come up, but very rarely is anybody here later. Now, there's some, like there's notes, there's some things in the lab that have to be done before tomorrow. But everyone is aware that, and we had a discussion. I mean, probably 5 months in, some people were staying till 3:05, 3:10, 3:15, and some people were gone. So we had to work that out and say, we're a team. If you're a hygienist and you're done, get everything done in sterilization so the assistants can leave. Right. If the schedule's not full for tomorrow and Susie needs help, or Tiana or Tammy need help, hop up front. Nobody sits around and just leaves at 2:59 or 3 when people are still here.
Yeah.
So we had those logistical talks for sure.
Absolutely. And it's okay too. Some dentists don't think in terms of this, but it's okay to ask for that payment before you start the procedure at the 2 o'clock appointment. Because a lot of times you have a team member sitting to wait around just to shut down the day, and he's waiting to just take the payment and start the process at 2 o'clock. So you guys walk to your cars together. Yeah. That was a huge change. We kind of did it before. We kind of tinkered with that world of paying it, but it makes sense. It's something we should all do. Right. So we started doing that with all of our patients. We put a sign up, and we had some people who were like, what does this change? But then we talked about, you do that at most medical offices anyways. So that
that was something that did change, but it just became a regular policy for us.
Yeah, absolutely. What were some other pitfalls or other things that you had to figure out? Is there anything else that comes to mind?
UPS.
Okay. Tell me about that. What's that mean?
The UPS guy usually came after 3. And so we weren't getting our stuff.
Yeah.
And so
what'd you do?
Well, for instance, like we use Patterson, and they usually get stuff here, just like Henry Schein, any of them, get it in 2 days. Mm-hmm. Well, the guy just wouldn't start coming. And he wasn't showing up. So we literally went a whole week without stuff we needed.
Right.
And that was a weird pitfall we didn't see. Karen, one of our assistants who does all of our supplies, and I both called the local place, UPS supplier, and they eventually got a hold of we had a new guy on UPS, and they had to figure out a new route so they can get it here before 3.
Yeah.
So it comes in the morning now. So that was a true logistical thing that we didn't see coming.
Yeah. So my son said this to me yesterday. He said, "Dad, do you know in every problem, there's a solution within it?" I'm like, "Buddy, who told you that?" That's so good. Because really, you guys are smart enough that once you grab the why, and that's really what you guys did. You talked about why we're doing this. All the solutions start coming to the surface. You see team members coming up with great, and the cool part is they own the idea. You don't have to motivate them or anything like that. And is that what happened to you guys?
With our team?
Yeah.
Yeah. They were wanting it before we wanted it. And we just didn't know it. We were all just assuming this is what we need to do. And we assumed that there would be problems for our team, but they fully embraced it. And I still was hesitant on them getting here at 6:55 because that's early. When you're driving at 6:30 to work and it's dark and nobody's out, it feels weird. Your first 2 weeks, you're like, are we going to have patience?
Right.
Who would show up this early? But it works, and our team totally bought into it. We do have one single mom that it's much more of a struggle, but she loves working for us and she makes it work. And my trade-off I want this to be the best place possible. Part of my job in hiring is to help people enjoy where they work, and this to be truly a blessing in our team members' lives. I want this to be where they come fulfilled and go home blessed. And but I see for her, even though the mornings are super tough, she's got 2 kids in school, and she gets home and she's got 6 hours with them before they go to bed. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Never get that back. It's awesome. But
it was a true change for us for sure. We still, because we're in this first 6 months. So we're still having conversations with patients. The patients it's still those fresh talks.
Right.
Because you got your people that regularly 3 to 5.
Right.
So we're still got a lot of talks ahead.
Yeah. Now let me ask you the tough questions that I get. I get these questions all the time. Well, what about the labor laws? In the state of Texas, you're required to give somebody a break. Most states require that for every 8 hours, you're required to give them an hour-long break. You guys had a conversation with your team. How would you answer that question when I get that question every week?
I don't have team members that are going to argue about it. It's not even a question for us. I haven't run into that at all.
Okay, so you didn't run into that. Well, I get it every once in a while, and I always say, hey, look, you have to comply with the state labor laws, and you are required if they ask, and we've got them written for each and every state. But if you take your hour lunch, that means you stay until 4 and you finish up everything else nobody else wants to finish. And you're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of team members we now work with that not one has ever said, I'll stay till 4 and clean up everybody else's mess that nobody else wanted to finish, and while everybody else left at 3. So it's cool when you present the solution to your team. And the other thing I just want to say about lunch too, and Jake, you got little kids. I've been up to the middle or the grade school and had lunch, and how long is the lunch at the grade school? It's not an hour and a half with our lunches are 21, 22 minutes. They clap. They're not even allowed to talk. It's stand up, you walk over here, you sit, quiet, eat your food, no one talks. And then they give you 3 minutes at the end of the lunch and clap. So everyone thinks lunch is an awesome investment. I actually think it's a waste of time. I'd much rather, leave early. What do you see?
Well, I totally agree. Before I would rush out, try to meet, wife, or I'd try to meet friends from church. Always try to meet up with Jamie, and if some of my two younger ones are not in school every day. So that was a blessing to have that during the day. I enjoy that. But most of the time, when you have multiple hygienists, you plan to meet your wife for 12:15 and it's 12:30. And then you got a 1:10 or 1 o'clock patient. And so it's like 15 minutes of lunch, or the biggest thing for me was we would meet and go to like Chipotle or Torchy's Tacos, and I would go scarf down a couple tacos. Then you come back and you're not ready to work again, And so I'm eating healthier. I'm not spending the money. It's easier for us as doctors to squeeze in a lunch because we have 4 hygienists. So, we're super busy. But we can numb a patient up and you legitimately have 10 minutes to eat. Right. It's really tough for hygienists to find that time. Mm-hmm. But all 4 of our hygienists they're wonderful, wonderful ladies who there was never a question. It's just them being done at 3 is the big thing. And so everybody just brings their lunch and they scarf it down when they can, And Jerrod and I keep snacks in our break room. We keep some healthier snacks and Luna bars and stuff like that and yogurt. So we help out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, now, so again, I love speaking to the person who might be watching this, and we do watch the metrics on this. We have a lot of young dentists watching it late at night, and they're like, it's really easy for you to say, but what advice would you give to a young dentist who's watching this, who says right away, I could never do this, or wants to do it but doesn't know where to start? What advice would you give a younger dentist?
Well, first of all, as a younger dentist, you have every fear in the world. Because you're coming out of dental school with $150,000 in debt, and you're wondering if the patients will keep coming. You haven't experienced everything, so you can't live in fear. First of all, as a believer, I believe the Lord guided me to be a dentist, and whatever your belief is, you're into it, like you say, it's the best profession because you can make it whatever you want to.
Right.
And so dentistry, even 5 years in, it's an amazing profession. It's incredibly demanding. You never can expect the time frame that you work in and how much goes into it, the amount of team stuff you deal with, from assistants to hygienists to admin. Every day is an adventure. Like, truly, it's a young dentist. You're seeing things for the first time. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. So, you definitely, there's a lot of sink or swim moments. But like in regards to this, I don't know. It's, for me, like I said, we couldn't have done it a year ago.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared for it. You have to have a team that can do it. You have to have, I don't think you have to have the patient base because, if you have less patients than us, you got less that will leave.
Piece of cake. Yeah.
And even if you're a smaller team, you got less team members that have to adjust.
Right. So,
there's definitely a devil's advocate for the things I'm even saying. I don't think there's much hesitation if it's something you truly see that you want to do. If you don't have, everybody watching this is obviously interested in what y'all do, whether they're team, clients or not, but you definitely have to, we've had y'all to help us. There's a lot of things that go into it.
Right.
So, but I really don't think there's much hesitation. Like you said, if it's something you want to do and you value, we have the why behind it. It has to be an aggressive approach. Right. There's no hesitation. There's no dancing around. Mm-hmm. You just, all that does is create confusion for your whole team and patients. And one of the things we considered, if you have multiple dentists, is staggering.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree. Like if we did 7 to 3, 8 to 4, and we switched off, I don't like the confusion there either.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very few people can pull that off because you're just sending mixed messages everywhere. Everybody's got different starts and stop times. And you could come up with every excuse why that doesn't work because, well, this person can't get here. Well, remember, this is the United States of America and it's your business. You get to make the rules. And it's amazing if you do. You guys did this. I always say when you get the why really clear, the how gets easy. And you guys, you did that. And the thing I want to say about you, you're so young. I feel like an older brother who's just so proud of you. You have 3 full decades of practice in front of you, if you choose to practice that long, and you just set yourself up to really enjoy the heck out of this journey in a way that you don't come home fried.
Yeah. Kirby, I got to ask you, how old are you?
I'm 47, just turned 47.
Okay. So Crawford's 46.
Okay.
So you always lump him as the young guy with me. So
well, he looks like a puppy. He looks so good. I get the reverse effect. I ask people how old I am, and they go, "You're like 55." I'm like, "No, no. You're supposed to make me feel better with your answer." And but how old are you?
I'm 35.
You're 35.
Yeah.
You're
35. Sorry, Jerrod is 45. He'll watch this and be mad at me for saying 46. He does turn 46 in June, but we're 10 years apart.
Yeah.
But truly, knowing that I have 30 years, I mean, Lord willing, do this for 30 more years or 40 more years, it really, no matter what investment it took or anything like this to do this, it's amazing to have the long evenings. And we lumped it all in with so many other changes. It's just kind of, there's been a lot of work, but it's been worth it so far. And I know it's be worth it long term, no doubt.
Well, I've said this to you before, but I'm happy for you. I'm happy for your team. I'm happy for your patients. But who I'm most happy for are those people you get to see in a little bit when you go home.
That's right.
It's just an incredible gift you give them, and it just gives you that motivation.
A huge deal for young dads, young moms who have little kids at home or kids that are teenage years. The one thing for Crawford, he's hitting middle school sports. And most of their games are 3:30 and 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
So he was going to have to take off anyways.
Yeah.
And so now he just rolls out and goes to them. And even if he needs to leave at 2:30, I'm like, I got it. No big deal. It's usually one hygiene patient that I have to check of his. And for me, my boys are 6 and 4 and 9 months. For my 6-year-old and 4-year-old, they want to wrestle.
Right.
But wrestling at 6 o'clock when you're hungry and you're tired is different than 3:30 when it's sunshiny and beautiful. It's just different. And so there's just so much. It's great.
Absolutely. And you see this, and it isn't just dentistry. People can look at a problem with 2 sets of lenses and say, hey, look, let's come up with a good solution, or I don't have another solution. And I think one of the things I want to say, if you're watching this, I am so passionate about this. People compensate for bad results in their business with even worse thinking. So they go, gosh, my schedule is falling apart this afternoon, so I have to do what everybody else says and open up on a Saturday. Or I've even seen it on the East Coast. People are opening up full days on Sundays. That's just really bad compensation for really bad business practices. And what you guys have done is say, hey, look, no, let's get really good about what we do here in a way that people value it and we value it and everybody wins.
And it comes down to your why too, because as you're saying that, I mean, Jerrod and I, our goal is to be with family and to do the things we love outside of here. Our goal is not to make more money. Now, don't get me wrong. Making more money, but that's going to come. It's not, there hadn't been any drop off. And if anything, January was our best month ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so yes, we could easily work another hour or 2 and have more profitability. The patients are there, but our goal is to be at home.
Yeah.
So we stick to that reason why we do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Buddy, I am so grateful for you. Like I said, I'm so happy for you guys. So thank you for sharing this. Yeah. Now, I don't even think, are you on Facebook or not? I don't even know if you are. I don't think you are.
Friends.
Oh, are we? Okay. We're friends. Yeah, we're friends, but I never really, I mean, you know how that works.
I'm not either, yeah.
Well, I'm going to tag you on this post here. And so the reason I ask you that is if you're a dentist watching this and you're like, I don't know if I could do this, or you want to ask a specific mechanical question or anything, please ask the question in the feed to the right. And I will ask Dr. Kirby and Dr. Crawford to give you a thoughtful response. These guys are awesome, and I know they'd just be willing to help you if you're struggling with this at all. So, buddy, I really appreciate you to help with any questions. Thank you for being on, buddy. I really appreciate this. I know I got to let you go because you got to get home.
Yeah, well, this is no big deal. We're good.
We're good.
Appreciate it, Kurt.
But stay on for just a few minutes. I want to just connect with you. But if you're watching this, thank you so much for watching. We're super grateful for you. I mean, it's just amazing what's happened, and we've been very blessed just to have you guys with us. I love your topics. I love the suggestions. Please keep sending them to us. I'll keep lining up the things that you guys want to talk about. And until we see you next time, hope you guys have a great day and keep watching the Best Practices Show.